Boom.
All right. So another great podcast today. Going to have some fun. Got a California guy on the phone, but former Floridian, but a gentleman that's up in LA that's doing a lot of great work. Energy Steve. And Energy Steve, I'm going to give a quick bio, but you help ignite people's highest frequency, which I love, man, because that is what the world needs right now is getting people's frequency lifted. And you're doing that with subconscious programming, NLP. You've got different ways that you go about doing that. But welcome to the podcast, and thanks for being on today.
Thank you so much, Sean. It's great to meet you. It's great to do this. I absolutely love the opportunity to share what I do with new people. And yeah, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So, igniting people's highest frequency. I mean, I think that, that is the one thing right now that is needed in a kind of a worldwide level because when we look at everything the way it is right now, we're kind of mired down in sort of a mundane modalities where we're not really experiencing a lot of our highest frequency. And we get a lot of people on here that are Reiki, that have, other different gifts. We had a gal, Allison, who's helping people get into the Akashic Library and all
Wow.
kinds of other really cool stuff. So, Energy Steve, I know, that kind of came about. We talked before the podcast, and before that, you had a background with athletics. And,
Yeah.
give us a little bit of background of yourself, kind of your upbringing, what kind of got you into it and in
Yeah.
that 21, 22 phase when you kind of turned into the Energy Steve personality.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for setting that up. That's awesome. So, the way I tell my story is through courageous leaps of joy. We've all heard of leaps of faith, and mine were leaps of joy, I like to say. And I believe we all can choose that. And that's where it comes down to the view of the frequencies. So, growing up, very short kid out of my friends, loved playing basketball, loved playing sports, and always was the shortest. So, it kind of pushed me to run the fastest, jump the highest, and never believed in myself whatsoever because as a short, white Jewish kid from Boca Raton, never thought I could be an NBA player, didn't have the belief, didn't even think it was possible. Then at the end of high school, I thought to myself, something clicked where I'm like, what if I could dunk? It was always a dream of mine as a kid. I have videos of me dunking when I was 5 years old, trampolines I used to do, but never thought it would ever be possible. But something shifted. So I went to go for it and started jumping, grabbing the rim, and thought, okay, I think this is not just a gift people have. I think it's trainable. Saw a friend of mine, now a friend of mine at the time, he was 39. I was about 18 years old. He was my height, looked like me, was able to grab the rim and then train himself to dunk. So now I knew it was possible. So I say this was my first courageous leap of joy because I this dunking goal was so exciting to me. I had to go for it because I thought it was possible now. And this was the first time people doubted me, and they didn't see the vision that I had. And I went for it, ended up dunking, and then that was just the beginning. After I got my first dunk, trained myself for the next 10 years, and it completely took me on my whole journey of self discovery, opened me up spiritually, and just completely removed all my limits. Because this one thing that was 0% possible became beyond what I thought was even possible. So I was at a corporate job back in 2016, and because of the mindset I had grown through the dunk journey, I realized like, oh, what, like not only like how far do I want to take this dunking, but who am I as a person? And looking at my job, I'm like, this definitely doesn't light me up. I don't know any other paths, but just like dunking, I didn't even know what was possible. So I started to study a lot. That's when I got into NLP. I found my love for life coaching and got certified. I was doing a lot of soul searching and found a lot of things that I love to do, from camera work to podcasting to speaking, and just tried all these different things. And then a few years after doing that was my second courageous leap of joy, which was quitting that job to just go on my own and try to make my own business. And the first thing I did, I wanted to be a life coach, but at 25 years old, I was like, I don't know if I can coach people yet. I still have my own limiting beliefs, so I'm like, it's hard to run a whole business on that, knowing I have some blocks I'm working through. So I would coach, but I also did a lot of content for others because I was filming myself on YouTube. That's how I grew my platforms. It was all through my dunk training. I found my love of speaking through my YouTube channel because people would ask me questions and I would love to just be on camera. So I loved helping other people express on camera. And so for the next 5 or so years, I was a solo entrepreneur, uh, building my media business with no entrepreneurial experience, just the love of what I like to do. I loved making the art. I loved helping people express. And that's where I started to build more tension again. Um, I'll share a quick manifestation story is when I quit that job, I was dreaming of a beach apartment that was closer to my family, that was on the water, and I could even see the tile. And the other manifestation I wanted was a job that I didn't hate. And those were the two big things I wanted in my life that kept me motivated. And I thought to myself, well, I'm going to let go of the beach apartment because if I get that apartment and still have a job I don't like, I'm still be miserable. So I'm like, I'll go for the dream job first, which was something in the creative field, and let go of that beach apartment. And so when I quit that job, I started working for this guy that lived near the beach. And then one of my coworkers actually was leaving his apartment. And he's like, do you want to rent this apartment? And I get in there, and it's exactly what I was envisioning. And I had to say yes. So that was another big leap I took of renting an apartment where I had one client and didn't know if I could support myself, but it was like a dream come true. I stepped into this apartment, was not even looking for it. I was living my dream. Bring that up because living my dream, doing a job that I love, but then felt this tension of I don't really think I want to be this media guy, but I'm helping a lot of people, but I do feel like I want to create my own content, be this speaker, be this coach. And it took me a long time to sort of wrestle with that. And I was alone for a lot of the time. COVID happened. I was just had a couple clients and I was working a lot on my computer alone. And in comes my third courageous leap of joy where I had some friends in California. The things I was seeking were seemed to be there. It seemed like a totally different lifestyle than I was actually living in Hollywood, Florida at the time. And I went to visit my friend for 2 days. And in those 2 days, I was so lit up, so excited, met so many people that I didn't leave. I just simply never came back to Florida. I've been back since to visit and grab some things, but I literally just never went back. I had a small bag of clothes, I had my computer, and I'm like, let's just make this happen. So that was 2022. Huge leap, been the best yet. I started hosting a potluck at our house. We rented a house, me and my friends. Every week we hosted a potluck. Now we have a community over hundreds of people that used to come weekly. So it was like 40, 50 people every week. We hosted events almost every single day. And I found my love for hosting people. And during this time, I also completely let go of my old identity. I stopped dunking. I stopped training. I had completely new friends, even left my family for the first time. And so this was a whole identity shift. And as I came back to myself, I started to realize I kind of had this crossroads of do I want to commit to this digital marketing route, which I was about to, and building a company with my friend, or do I want to go this coach, speaker, performer route? And everything that I believe in and the way I felt about my personal route, there was the self-worth aspect, but overcoming that, I said this would be more exciting. So that was my latest leap was saying I'm going to be this performer. And since then, it's been fantastic. I've been full-time coaching this past year, just about, and then opening up the speaking gigs, more podcasts like this, creating my music. And when I moved to California was when Energy Steve became my persona because people didn't know me for the dunking. I was meeting so many people, inviting them to my events that I would say I'm Steven and they would forget my name. So I'd be like, I would always get the compliment that I have a lot of energy. And that's what I liked to talk about because when I would talk to people about dunking, I didn't like to talk about sets and reps. I didn't like to talk about weights. I like to talk about your motivation, your inspiration, what's driving you to do this. And that came down to the energy. And so Energy Steve just came naturally, became my rap name as well. And that's where we are today. Um, and yeah, I'll pause there.
Oh man, that was
Thank
awesome.
you.
I got to give you a hand. That
Thanks a
was
lot,
that
man.
was a that was a great intro. I got to dig in. What part of LA are you in?
I'm in Venice Beach, California.
Dude, man,
Yeah.
that is a fun area. You know, for anybody that doesn't know, Venice is right in between Marina Del Rey and Santa Monica.
Yes.
And you know, one thing I always say, Steve, is that all the beaches are like flavors of ice cream. If you like ice cream, you're gonna love Southern California. But Venice is so much different than Santa Monica and way different
Yes.
than Hermosa, Manhattan, and all the other places down there. And I could see where that community would be a great place to kind of have these potlucks because
Mhm.
you've got a lot of people that are similar mindset. Now, being from San Diego, Venice Beach to me is very much like Ocean Beach would be kind of
Mm.
down in the San Diego area, the same vibe. Um,
Gotcha.
I don't want to say hippies, but kind of like peace, love, and happiness, and you
Yeah,
know,
for
just a
sure.
lot of
For
that,
sure. Yeah.
a lot of that general vibe. But
Definitely.
it's a beautiful area too because they've so many murals. So tell me a little bit. So I have to just, what is your height? When you started dunking, what was the
Yeah.
height?
I'm 5'10", and it's funny because the in the dunk world, like the shorter the better. So it's funny you're like proud of being short. But yes, 5'10", and I got my vertical up to a 42.5 inch vert, which was flying. It was really fun.
Dude, that is amazing. That
Yeah.
is absolutely amazing. So I like the whole path about how you were helping others doing the digital media because one thing, even myself, when my early years, I was I would say a consultant or, but that's what I did is I helped people get launched online. And that was in the early days. But the beauty of that was through all that repetition and all that work, when I eventually said I'm going to start doing this for myself, I really
Yes.
had put a lot of hours in. So it really was great training because, when you're really passionate, and I feel like for you, you're really on purpose, right? Like you're on point with exactly what resonates with what you want to do with your life. And, if there's one takeaway right now, just in the first 5 minutes of this call, I can tell that you're a guy who's on point, on purpose, and truly living the life that you want to leave. And being a huge fan of manifestation and Neville Goddard and Bob Proctor, and all the greats, you're living the dream, man. You're
Mm.
literally living like, and the whole thing, here's what I love about it is that it's all about your frequency, right? You're taking
Yep.
on these manifestations in such a high, enjoyable, ecstatic, like I'm going to create this beautiful place on the beach, and you got the place on the
Yes.
beach. And but you have to kind of be in that reality where you're really upbeat and you're envisioning it and you're expecting it to happen, right? You're
Totally.
like, and because like I had this talk with Abby who works with me, and I said, Abby, it's one thing to listen to this stuff, it's another thing to be it, right?
Yes.
It's so important because people become a student and they never become the teacher, or they never become the reality of what they're learning, and all they do is keep cramming information. But there comes a point where you know enough. It's time now to execute what you
Act.
know. And like I find that that's a huge transition because people can recite, oh, yeah, I know about the law of vibration. I know this, I know that. You do know it, but you're not living it. It hasn't become your reality. And there
Yes.
needs to be like, and you're the living, breathing reality of
Oh,
encompassing the teaching, right? And that's, if you don't encompass and become the teaching, you can never be the teacher, you know?
yes.
If it's not, I call it parrot talk, right? All you're doing is repeating verbiage, but you're not actually setting the bar and being the living reality of that. And so my immediate perception with just our first initial part of this call is
Yeah.
that you are living the dream and you are the dream, and therefore you are the life coach because you're bringing people, like you said, to that vibration, to that frequency where
Yeah.
they're maxing out and getting into that energy field. And it is an energy field. I mean, dude, you have an actual energy field,
Yeah.
and you bring people into that, and they have no choice but to enter into that field and be
Right.
brought up.
Totally. Dude, I that was really well said, and I really appreciate that so much. I feel that, and I wanted people to know, like, because I'm a very courageous person, which takes that action, but it's courage is such a specific word because it's not despite the fear. Like I was terrified, it was not easy, but it's about the action and really having the belief that it's going to work out. And do you know Bashar? I'm sure you know Bashar, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my favorite things that he says is action equals knowing. If you knew it, you would do it. And so there's people say, I believe in this, and it's good to believe, but I'm even getting more specific now where it's like, if you believe in something, that means there's still a little doubt. But if you know something, there is no more doubt. Like my parents, I don't have to believe in my parents or believe in you. I know you. I know you are there. And so that's how you have to look at your life. And I love the Neville Goddard as well, is like you have to just hold that vision despite what everything else is showing you. And if you knew it was happening, if I told you if you took this action, it would work out, you would do it. So it's not about you believing in it or if it's happening. It's like if you really truly believe it, you would act on it. So action is the language.
It is so well put. One of my favorite quotes from Neville Goddard is, you know that if you jump off a two-story building, there is gravity and you are going to hit the bottom and it's going to
Yeah.
hurt. And if you can know, then have that same belief that if you follow through and program the reality that you want to create, and if you believe as strongly in your future and
Mm.
what you want to manifest, you'll manifest it.
Yep.
And so yeah, and Neville Goddard and all these greats, they're the living, breathing reality of all that. Um, so now you're what? Give me a day in the life of
Sure.
Energy Steve. What is a day in the life up in Venice with you, brother?
We'll talk about it right now. What we're doing today. This morning, woke up, got some sun, gotten took care of some of my plants, was ready for this podcast. Super pumped about that. After this, I will be meeting with one of my business partners. We've just launched our online group that actually helps people create content, helps them get clients, helps them build their coaching business online. So we built that over the past 3, 4 months. Really exciting because when there's students in there, they get all of our tools and systems that we use to build business. And I do live coaching in that group. So we're going to map out some content to make to help people understand what the group is about, some more content to put in the group, and also just schedule out the coaching sessions that I do there. So I'll do that. Then I'm a big on physical training. I train a lot. I love pushing my body, even though I'm not dunking right now. Pushing my body really grounds me into the moment, really helps me live in that edge of discomfort, which has helped my business, which has helped my manifestation. So training my body is a really physical one. And then tonight, probably connect with some people, whether it's over dinner or just try to go to the beach or something, but pretty simple. But I'm always building those spectrums of health, wealth, love, and self-expression. So kind of just self-mastery journey. And this weekend, no real plans, same type of thing, but I love creating. So the other thing I like to do is create music. So I usually leave some space open to create music or create some funny videos, or I'm stepping into more of that performing role on camera as well as an actor. So coming up with some comedy skits or different things like that, I'm really excited for these next upcoming weeks.
Really exciting. The best part about the day and age that we live in is that you can take all those creative skills and you can be Energy Steve, and you don't have to go do auditions. You can
Oh, it's
basically
amazing.
build your own platform and your own base based on what you want to be. You can be you, you know what I mean? You don't
It's
have to
so
be a
cool.
script and play a Tom Cruise role in Mission Impossible. I mean, you
Yeah,
could, but you can be you, which is so cool because that reality now is people, they subscribe because they like you as a person.
right.
They resonate with you. They resonate with the energy, and they have fun. There's that element where it's enjoyable, and then you have all these thousands of followers that know you extremely well, but
Yeah,
you might not get to know them quite as well just because they're following you and they're becoming part of your family online. So
totally, man.
that's kind of a cool reality of the day that we live in now. So what are the kind of for the life coaching, what are some of the, like, give me an idea of some of the things that you help people through and kind of some of the
Yeah.
clients that you work with, just to kind of get a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, totally. So a lot of times what I believe we all have a unique gift and a unique way of expressing ourselves to the full potential. And for me, I have that innate ability within me to take those courageous actions, but I lack in other areas. Like sometimes I don't have the most structure. So when I have a business partner that has structure, I flow really good in that. I like to think of myself where I've seen that I am like an explosion, like a fire. So if you give me like a frame, like a podcast, I can put my juice into it, my fire, fantastic. I'm really good at that. Other people need that fire. They need a little boost. They need a little reminder and to help them get out of their own way. So the people I help with most are feeling that stuckness, feeling like they've been in this, they desire more, but they can't get to this next level of themselves. And there's a lot of stories they've created. And I like to help get to the root of those because so often it's a loving feeling. For example, I met this woman and she wanted to chase her dream, but then when we talked deeper, it really was like she felt like she was disrespecting her parents because they have a vision of who she should be, and it's really hard to go against that because you're saying I don't want to disrespect my parents, and I would never say to do that. But what I help with the NLP and the subconscious programming is I can help see that you're actually the reframe I made for her, which was powerful, is like even though you're going on a route that they don't understand and maybe don't agree with, you're not disrespecting them. You're actually saying, and she was saying her parents struggled so much to get to where they're at that if she doesn't, she feels like she's disrespecting. And I'm saying, actually, wherever they took it is giving you the platform for where you want to go. So when I say joy, that's the frequency. No matter who it is, no matter what people say, joy is always the path. And if you're going completely wayward from what they think, but it's your highest joy, you're actually honoring them the best you possibly can because you're saying you brought me here. Now I'm going to take it to a whole nother level. And it's usually away from what they comprehend because they can't even see where you're going.
Yeah.
So I like to help unlock people to say, to find those stories that we've put that are just false and really help them courageously tap into their highest joy.
I love that. I'm having like visions of you going in to these people almost like with the flashlight and saying, okay, hey,
Mm.
I need to find, we got some limiting belief issues here. Let me go in and let's see what we got that's holding us back because I will clearly identify it and then we'll clearly talk about it and then we'll remove that obstacle and
Yes.
start opening up these abilities that we all have because we're programmed with limiting beliefs once we start getting older and
Yeah.
you've gotten so good at just obliterating those. Couple things
Yeah.
also though, taking risk, right?
Yeah.
And knowing that if you go over the waterfalls, you're going to be okay and you're not trying to
Yeah.
paddle upstream and you just put your arms up and say, here we go. I have 100% faith and confidence and taking those
Yes.
jumps, moving from Boca or moving from Hollywood to LA, knowing nobody and leaving your base. That is not easy to do.
Yeah.
And that's a big jump. But when you're looking to do something, there comes a little bit of risk that has to be associated with it. But with no great risk, there's no great reward either.
Totally.
But
And
I
I
do.
also go ahead.
Go ahead.
You can finish.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, in addition to going in and kind of cleaning out, limiting beliefs, but just going in and saying, okay, how can we get, like I can see you just doing a complete diagnostic first, right?
Mhm.
And then getting the story, finding out the dream, and then figuring out what the obstacles are that are doing that. But the other thing that I find to be super powerful is the word co-manifestation.
Mm.
And so their dream becomes your dream
Yeah.
because you guys are now connected and they have come to you and said, Steve, I here's my dream and help me get there, right? And so you kind of merge and become this journey together. And with your energy and your ability now, because like I said, here's the most important thing. You are what you preach. This is
Hmm.
not reciting words out of a book. Like that's very clear from being on this podcast. But now you have the ability to bring people to that level, right?
Mm.
And so what I find is that when you start getting multiple people in the manifestation mode, and you've got two, three, four people, and you start bouncing stuff off each other and saying, wow, Steve, I
Yeah.
just checked out your $5 million home in Manhattan Beach that's got, a portion, whatever, in the driveway. And then they say, oh yeah. And you can really, with that energy, if you get like-minded people that are all very open, that understand that concept, when you start co-manifesting, things accelerate at a much
Mm.
faster pace. So I feel like,
Yes.
one of the gifts that you're able to provide is number one, compassion, because you
Mm.
clearly have compassion to help these people. You have to have that in order to make this all work. Knowledge, and then you've got the life that you're living, right? But then you
Mhm.
have the ability to bring them up to your energy level. And so
Wow.
that's such a special gift, and it's really nice to see somebody, like yourself that's living the dream, that's living your dream on a day-to-day basis and scripting out your reality. So with that, I'm sorry to have
Wow.
interrupted you there.
No, man, I can hear it all day. I really appreciate those are really sweet compliments and it really means a lot, man. I appreciate you seeing me in that way. And I guess I am always very keen on helping people understand that I don't feel like I've done anything different or anything new. I feel like we all have this choice. We all need each other in different ways. And I'm very expressive and also very outward. And so I used to follow other people's paths too much. So I always am trying to when some people see me on camera or rapping or something, they're like, "Oh, I want to do that." But find your unique expression, right? We all have. I was running the other day and I was outside like filming myself running, and I'm like, I actually perform better when I'm in public than in private because I'm conscious of people watching me. But you
Hmm.
might be like, and other things that I do, I definitely perform better in private.
Hmm.
So look, I think when I look at inspirations, I always say like, "Ooh, that inspires me so much." And for example, a surfer, I used to be like, "Ooh, that guy's having so much fun. Maybe I should surf." But what I truly was liking was just his passion and the way he knew himself so much. So I always try to tell people is like the best thing you could always do is like find that inspiration, then get to know yourself even better.
Yeah, that word is such an important word, inspiration, right?
Yes.
And purpose, right? And purpose.
Hmm.
And it's funny because amongst other things, I'm big into what they call medbed technology, which is really
Yeah.
nothing more than energy and frequency-based technology. And so, a lot of that technology has the ability to raise people into, higher frequencies. But, I do find that there's one thing that you can't overcome, and that is living your purpose and living your dream.
Mm.
And people always say to me, well, we want to live 20 years longer. Well, if you want to live 20 years longer, live your purpose, live your dream. And instead of worrying about living longer, worry about living a more fulfilled life, right?
Yeah.
Worry about a fulfillment where you're living your dream, because then the life is going to take care of itself. I feel like people kind of fold the tent and kind of age faster and quicker because they're stuck in the box. I think the
Yeah.
most profound way that we're starting this conversation is with the dunking. But the dunking, I feel like you said it, but the first thing that the dunking did is it got you out of the box of
Yes.
limits, right?
Yes.
It opened up the box. So now you're living in a reality where anything and everything is possible at any second,
Yes.
and you're living it, but you know it because you have already jumped out and gotten rid of that. And that is the structure that a lot of people are in that they never get out of, unfortunately, because of the programming. And
Yeah.
so these goals, those three goals that you set, where you said, I'm going to push the limits, and like the Bashar quote, I'm going to know and not I'm already knowing that it's already reality. I'm not,
Yeah.
hoping or wishing or any of those kind of it's sort of a weak vocabulary, if you will, because anything other than knowing and being 100% confident
Yeah.
is always doomed to have issues. You have to stand into your power and then acknowledge that you have that ability. And then once you start knowing that you've got it, then
Yeah.
it really starts, then you really start getting powerful because you
Yep.
know that you've got that power, and then you start implementing it, and it grows and it becomes stronger as you start to harness it.
Dude, 100%. I love that you brought up the not living longer, living more fulfilled. I'm always a big proponent of saying, because people come to me and they're feeling tired, they're feeling drained, they see how much I train or how much I speak. They're like, how do you have so much energy? And my response is always that our natural state is very high energy. And I'm a big fan of Michael Singer. And the analogy he uses is like your life force energy is coursing through you, and we just have rocks in the way. It's a river, and it's just rocks. So when you remove the rocks, the blocks, the river's flowing. You don't have to make the river flow. And so when you're saying, like, when I think of myself going into my 40s, into my 50s, into my late 80s, I know that I can still have high energy. It'll just be expressed differently. But if you're able to tap into yourself, your natural energy state will be very high. And it doesn't matter your number, you're going to have this youthful energy about you because you're allowing your fullness to come through. And that's when you're aligned with who you are and your purpose.
Because you're so on point with where you want to be with your life. You're living your dream,
Yes.
and I feel like, for anybody that's out there that's not living their dream, it's great to see how life changes, but it doesn't happen without risk. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen, like, you've got to break out of the routine, and you've got to say, this is where I want to be, this is where I'm at now, and I'm not going to get there unless I start making steps or have a clear vision of what I want to do. But you have to be able to break out of the mundane routine and say, I want to have my own business, or I want to
Yeah.
do my own thing, or whatever it might be, or, be a veterinarian, whatever. But if you stay in that routine and you don't break out of it and you don't take any risk, you're locked in. So there is that part of it where it's a little bit of an adrenaline push, because you know that, hey, this might mean that I might lose a job. It's interesting. Another Neville Goddard quote is, Neville says, when you start manifesting what you truly want to do, he goes, a lot of people come to me and say, after I did that, I lost my job. And he's like,
Yeah.
of course you did, because you had
Yeah.
to get out of that job,
Yeah.
or you'd never get out of it. It was a
Yep.
blessing, you
It's always a
know?
blessing. Yeah.
It's always a blessing. And it's interesting because, as you get older, you become a little bit more introspective, right? And so in my life, I look back and I'm like, wow, I remember when I was just getting the snot kicked out of me and stuff was not going good. But then months and years later, then you look at that and you go, wow, but if that wouldn't have happened, it wouldn't have got me here. I wouldn't have picked up
Yes.
that. And then you look back and go, but at the time there was absolutely a purpose for why that had to happen. And
Mm.
so, in the moment, it can be very difficult. But I do find that even when things become challenging now, I kind of go within and say, okay, this is not fun. I am not, I'm not necessarily jumping for joy that I'm dealing with these situations, but I do know that there will be a point in time where it will become understood that there was a reason why I had to do this.
Yeah.
And I just saw a great video as a short. I was watching yours too. You got some great video content. Well, down below for anybody that's listening or watching, down below this video, I've got all Steve's information
Oh, thanks.
in the black. You don't even have to go to the description. But Bob Proctor was talking about how wonderful pain is. And he
Mm.
goes, wow, he goes, the beauty is that pain can give you so many gifts. And when you're dealing with pain, how you acknowledge that is really going to determine, how you're going to grow from that situation. And there's so much growth and so many wonderful things that can come from pain. And you can tell a lot about a person that how they deal with their pain is going to determine whether they're going to have growth or they're going
Mm.
to cycle back into having to relearn or go through some other things. And for myself, I had to watch that video like 4 times because it really shocked me actually. I was like,
Mm.
wow, there's a very profound message here, and I have not heard that before. And when it's coming from no, actually it was Napoleon Hill.
Okay.
It was Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill has a lot of his videos with him actually on them on YouTube. So that was something that struck me. Now, I'd like to just go back for a second because I think that there's an underlying thing here also that we should talk about, which is NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And for any of our listeners and viewers today that are not familiar with that, can you kind of go in and explain NLP and what it is and
Yeah.
kind of how you, because it's very synergistic with what we're talking about.
Totally. So this is how I bring the brain function and the science into the energy work as well. So NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. It's just saying the language of the brain. And basically, we have brain patterns that are happening all the time, ways of thinking, ways of behaving. And if we can notice that and know how the brain works, we can completely rewrite these patterns to work for us. 95% of what we do is subconscious. So if you wake up, you do the same thing, you're going to be living the same reality. Joe Dispenza talks about this very often. And one thing that I love is that when you understand how the brain works, for example, a huge one is that it's afraid of the unknown. The subconscious mind is designed to help us survive. So anything unknown, such as quitting a job or following your joy, even like that's why I call it courageous leaps of joy, it easily can shut it down because it says, where is that going? The unknown is not safe. But if you can know that about your brain and say, I'm doing it for my joy, that's my intention. That's why I call it be the energy. Say you're like about to climb a mountain and you can let go of the outcome because the mind wants an outcome, but there won't be one because you're stepping into the unknown. If you can let go of that outcome, you can say, who am I being during this leap? I'm being someone who's courageous. I'm being someone who follows their joy, their intuition. I'm being someone who believes in themselves, and I just like the opportunity, the possibility. It gives you that freedom to take that first step. So when you do that, then you can uncover the subconscious patterns. Like, what is the real fear? Like, when you go to take that step, sit with yourself, ask, what is coming up for me? What's the story that I'm telling? Oh, this person might say that. I might get hurt. I might lose my job, might lose money. I go homeless. All I've heard it all. And so when you hear that story, you can start to rewrite a new story. Okay, I want to be the person that takes a chance. I am resourceful. I can figure it out if this happens. And if you start acting on those stories, you're going to rewire the patterns in your brain to work in that way. And then it becomes like you're saying that snowball effect where you start living really good because now that story becomes reinforced and the brain uh, reinforces those patterns. And uh, what does Joe Dispenza always say? Wires that fire together wire together, or neurons that fire together they wire together. So if you keep doing that habit over and over, Kim, it becomes who you are. So long story short, reversing the way is like if you've lived a story for so long, you've become an identity that doesn't serve you anymore. So that's why some people get stuck and need outside perspectives because that's just who you are. You can't see anything else. And one more thing I'll jump on that I really love is the reticular activating system in the brain, which is the filter. Most people have had this experience where they see a new car or see a red car, and then the next day they see it everywhere
Yeah.
because now that's in your filter.
Yeah.
So if we know that that's happening, it's the same with your reality. If you have this identity built up that I'm the one that always loses, I'm the one that can never make this happen, that's all you're going to see. But like you're saying, if you know the outcome can be good and you're going to say, like, there's two people and one person says I'm going to fail, this is not possible, another person says I'm going to figure it out, they're going to see reality totally differently and you're going to start to see those things that reinforce it because that filter is open to those things.
Wow, that is awesome. One of the ways that I always explain it too is like the neural pathways can be something as a back dirt trail, and it could be something as a 6-lane superhighway, man. It could
Oh,
be the
wow.
405, or it could be the boardwalk in Venice. But
Yeah.
it's those reoccurring thoughts that go over and over that kind of build those neural pathways. And if you say, look, I'm going to basically jump off and hit the 101 and take the one highway, and I'm going to change my thoughts, or I'm going to change my patterns and my habits, then that's kind of what it takes. And then as you do that, you start reestablishing new habits, new beliefs. And I think that the time frame that they say is usually about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So once you've kind of shifted out of a habit, whatever it might be, and you're trying to improve, and you say, look, because the physical exercise thing is a big deal. It's a very big deal.
Hmm.
It's stimulating all different types of endorphins and all different things. It's very important for it mentally, physically, and spiritually to be in alignment. And
Yeah.
so, whatever it is that you've got, maybe you're not as active as you could be, but as you start doing that, you start having a better self concept. And as you have a better self concept, then you start eating better. And then that snowballs, and now your self appearance, and you feel more confident. And all those things are all very much interrelated. So, you're picking up and trying to do things on a mental, physical, and spiritual level. But, once again, I like the fact that you're setting the bar for all of those. And then when you're looking at these people and saying, hey, even if we just got up and did a 2 mile walk today, that would
Yeah.
be a start, right? And if we can just do a 2 mile walk 3, 4, 5 days a week, then next week we probably do three, and then next week we do four, and then maybe what we'll do is jog or whatever it is. But you start finding where the bar can be pushed a little bit, and then you start just getting those steps and start taking those baby steps. But then as those baby steps grow, it goes from a little dirt trail to now that is
Yes.
your 405. That's your main reality. That's what you do. And now you've
Mm.
shifted, and it's been something as simple as just getting into a regular physical routine, a regular exercise
Mhm.
routine.
Yeah, man. I've been on this kick lately of telling people that their dream life is now. And so often, because so often feel people say, when I have this reality, then I'll feel this. When I get this, then I'll do this. But I see it as we are already living it now, and all life is teaching us is this unfolding of what's in the way of living that dream now. So how can you celebrate today? How can you live as if it's your dream? Like there's no waiting. So every time you have resistance to that dream life now, that's your work.
I'm going to start calling you Energy Steve the Yogi.
I am
Because,
pretty
dude,
much a yogi.
that is very profound. That's what yoga and a lot of
Yeah.
like I'm talking like sadhus and
Hmm.
gurus and things, because the reality of it is there's nothing missing in this moment
Yeah.
for you to be an absolute perfect, and everything to be absolutely perfect. And the minute you
Right.
live that reality, because it's always something else somewhere else, that's the
Yes.
breakdown. And that's the reality. Like the thing I always like to say is that people are never living in the present moment. They're
Right.
thinking about later, they're thinking about next week, they're thinking about anything other than right now. And the one thing that I find it's a really good thing to center is the power of being grateful. So what
Mm.
I'll do, and I do this a lot with my friends, and I'll say, right now in this very moment, I'm super grateful. I'm super grateful that Chrissy, you're hanging out with me. I'm grateful that April is here. I'm grateful I have good friends that love each other. I'm grateful that we're here listening to this music tonight. I'm grateful that we've got a great view. And I go into this grateful speech, but I say, but I'm
Yes.
grateful right now in this very moment, right?
Mm,
And there's certain things that are good for shifting energy. And I find one of the things that's really good is being in a mode of gratitude and always, being somewhat humble. But gratitude is the
yeah.
one thing that can shift you out. And when things go sideways, and in life they do, and we're not, and
Yeah.
it's okay, right? It's not like you just understand. I recognize right now that I've gotten off track and I need to get on track. And maybe that's by listening to some great music. But for me, a lot of times it's like, okay, I'm super grateful right now that that I've got this beautiful office, that I've got all my buddies hanging out behind me, all these crystals. They're actually everywhere. Like my whole office at 360 is no different than what you're seeing behind me. And it's interesting, not to sidetrack, but they're all conscious, intelligent energy fields.
Mm,
So for me, they're like hanging out with little people. But
yeah.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful for everything that I've got in this very present moment. And I
Mm,
find that, the more that I can do that, it centers me and it puts me in the moment. And I think
mm,
that, the Buddhists always say the number one reason for stress is that people are living in the future and they're not living in the present
yeah.
moment. They're already trying to think about things that have not even happened yet. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
Love it, man. Yeah, I think it's we live in this dualistic world where it's like we can know about the future, we want to build. Of course, you want new things, but I love about bringing it to the now and saying I don't need any of those things to have that feeling now. What's great is you get to bring all your power back to yourself because if you're saying I need this, I need that, you can't control those things or when they're coming. It's like, but I can't control how I feel about the now and the gratitude so powerful. And that's just currently how I love to help people unlock themselves is saying, if you didn't need anything, what would you do right now? And just take a chance on that. Take one step in that direction and then assess. So there's practices you can do because sometimes you take those steps and then you don't look back, be like, wow, this past week I just lived presently this whole week and look at all these things that went well. And
Right.
then another big one we haven't touched on is the nervous system because so often we're afraid and if our nervous system's in that fight or flight we can't relax into gratitude but if we keep practicing what I'm grateful for it could relax you and you could be like oh wow I did that thing I took that leap I made that choice and I'm okay if anything I had some magic unfold so now you're teaching the mind and the nervous system to connect to say oh I could relax in this new reality and that's where training for me has been such a powerful practice for the way I run my business because I can push myself to a limit physically. No matter what your limit is, you can find your limit, go there, stay present, breathe, and then wow, you can expand. And it's the same with life. Ooh, I just spent a lot of money in my business. I invested a ton, or I did all these different things, but it's like that's a lot. But it's like, okay, let me see how it goes. And as time goes on, it's like, oh wow, it actually expanded my business. Business is just your ability to handle that discomfort.
Yeah, that's very well said. And the other thing that I was just going to show you here real quick, but
Yeah, show me. Wow.
so those are all ICU beds, right? Like
Yeah.
there's crystals there and stuff too. But the one thing that's interesting about what I do is that I'm one of the guys that people call if they've got ALS, if they've got MS,
Mm.
if they're quadriplegic. I spoke to a guy yesterday who's paraplegic,
Wow.
and they need beds, man. I'm one of the few guys that provide
Mm.
ICU quality care. And so I've said it before, but I have to live in a moment of gratitude because I'm dealing with people every day that if I sell them that bed, they're probably not going to ever get out of it.
Wow.
Um, and that's really what's got me into this journey because you brought up Joe Dispenza, who is really to me is like a real hero because he's the one that says that there's no limits,
Yeah.
no limits. Everything and anything in any second is 100% possible, and you have to live that way. And so when Joe Dispenza, for anybody who doesn't know, broke his back, right? And he was told you'll never walk again. And he said, no, I absolutely will.
Yeah.
I'm not buying into that. And I'm going to show everybody that I will walk again. And I
Yeah.
find that, one of the things that people need, especially when things are bad in their life, the number one thing that they need first is that first handhold to get off the ledge.
Mm.
And the first handhold is the word hope. and they've got to
Mm.
know that there is hope, that things can change and things will get better. And, that's where being a life coach, I think, is really so valuable and so important, because the first thing you can do is take that story and say, we're going to fix this. And
Yeah.
I've got you, and I've got your back, and I'm going to walk you through this, and we're going to do this together. Right.
Yes.
And so the other thing I love, which I'm going to touch on, we'll get back to, is that the fact that your subconscious mind, there's no difference between that and imagination. So
Hmm.
whatever the mind can believe and conceive, the mind can achieve, right? Because we literally are able to manifest and manipulate third dimensional energy, which is referred to in Vedic literature as inferior energy. But as spiritual beings, we can make that move for us.
Yes.
And, like I keep going back to it, but I love it because that's you, man. That's
Yeah.
what you've done. And you can feel the power of a person when you see there's actually an energy field that goes around all of us.
Yeah.
And as you get more powerful and you understand your power and you become more loving and compassionate, and people enter into that, what I call the love zone, and you're just there for humanity as a good
Yes.
soul, and they get in that energy field, they feel that. And
Yeah.
so there is a whole part of it too, and that's physics, really. I mean, that's not even just me saying it sounds good.
Yeah.
That's actual.
I'm big on Joe Dispenza broke me open with his quantum physics. That's what sent me down the rabbit hole of learning about quantum physics, where the observer collapses that reality. And just the possibility is something that I always love helping people uncover. Is just no matter how small the possibility is of it going right, you're saying this would be once in a lifetime chance. It's like, well, if you don't believe in it, you're giving it zero. So
Yep.
as long as you're giving it a possibility, give it a chance. And back to that natural state of energy, some people I meet want to climb such a big mountain that they get paralysis analysis and they don't even start. But what I like to remind them and help them feel by taking that first step is the second you step on the mountain going up, you feel amazing. Like you were saying, on purpose and on point. You don't need to get anywhere. The fact
No.
that you're going for it feels amazing. The fact that I'm going to be a rapper and I'm trying to be a speaker, like just the act of going for it already fills me with energy. I don't need to do anything else.
You've started the journey. You're not talking about it. Now you have actually, it's become present tense.
Yeah.
And now you're actually, that's the greatest, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step, right?
Yep.
And so once you've started the journey, it's like once you've even gotten to the gym that first time, even if it was 20 minutes on the treadmill, man, you've started the
You
journey.
started. Yep.
It's that
So
first step
good.
that's
The
always the
first step.
hardest thing to kind of get started. But once you do get that sort of inner gratitude.
Yeah.
Um, Energy, Steve, man, this has been a lot of fun. This has been a great podcast. Now, you know that you're
So
always
great.
welcome to jump back on. So if you say, hey, Sean, I got a
Lovely.
subject, or I've got an event, or I've got you just reach out anytime, anywhere, man.
Incredible.
The more people I can get you in front of, the better this world is going to be.
Oh, thank you.
Um, and so I'm very grateful, like I'm going to say right now, I'm very grateful I got the opportunity to get on this podcast today. Thank you for being patient with me on that as well.
Of course.
Before I end any podcast, and I'm not saying it's over because we might go into another segment beyond 20 minutes, but usually before I start getting it closed, I always want to kind of throw some final words or some final thoughts or just some,
Mm.
anything that you want to share to the general public that we might not have touched on, or anything you want to reinforce
Mm.
that we did touch on.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I love having fun, and some people, I used to doubt it. I had no teachers that teach me to follow fun besides like people I listen to in books and different things like that. But everyone's journey is relative, and I really believe that following that joy is a frequency. And I always say, if you could download all the different knowledges that I have, you would understand why it makes it easier to take those leaps. The formula is following that excitement, no matter how small it is. Bashar says that, like, even if it's just a little bit more exciting, just go towards that and notice when your mind wants to know the outcome because you can't. Like, we're talking about, we're stepping into possibility, we're stepping into the quantum, we're stepping into the unknown. So you do not know. And that can, just like you were saying, pain is a good teacher and a lesson. Is like, if you're afraid because it's unknown, that should be a sign for you to be like, ooh, I'm stepping into magic because that's the only place magic can live. So let go of that outcome. take a step towards your joy. And if you can't take this step or you're having trouble, I'm here for you. But also listen to what the story is. Like, what is it? For me, it was like, who am I to be the one that chases their dreams? I was in a corporate job, and so many people said, like, not everybody can chase their dreams, but I wanted to do it. And I believe that, like you're saying, my energy field, if I'm in joy more often than not, and I'm radiating that joy and I'm increasing it, it's better for everyone. And so often I work with people that have small children or multiple children and a husband, and they're running a business and they don't feel like they can put themselves first. And I always like to remind that if you're putting yourself first and saying no to other people and it really lifts your energy, that's going to lift everyone around you. So it just becomes back to that wholeness and that oneness, that energy first, putting your frequency first. It's actually Friday, and I like to talk to my energy freaks, as I call them, on Frequency Friday. A lot of times there's society pressures of going out, going to a bar, doing certain things. But today's my reminder to be like, when that society pull is strong, putting your energy first is the greatest thing you can do. You said you might lose a job, you might lose friends, but the thing is you're stepping up. And if you're clear that you're raising your vibration, understand that you're not saying no to them. They can come with you. They're just choosing not to meet you up there. So
Yeah.
put your frequency first and watch the magic unfold.
I love that. And the beautiful saying is energy attracts like energy, right?
Hmm.
So when you're in that high energy field, there are going to be people naturally attracted because they're in that same vibration. I've had friends in the past, and I love everybody, generally speaking. And you do find though that people that are normally that like to carry on and kind of be negative and complain, they seem to filter themselves out because that's a different
Yep.
energy field. And and sometimes they like to be around where they can all be in that muddle. But then the same
Yeah.
thing is true with happiness and joy and being successful, and being around people that lift you up. Like
Yeah.
one of the things that I always tell people, and I like to focus on it, is who are the people around you? I mean, are they
Yeah.
people that you want to emulate? Are they people that are like-minded? Are they people that are high energy? Or are they kind of what we might call an energy vampire, where they're always
Yeah.
dumping a sob story on you and everything is doom and gloom and it's always bad? And it's like, once in a while everybody has a day, but when that's the repeated thing, it's like, okay, naturally it's going to separate. It's like oil and water. They're not the mixture is never going to be there. You're
Yes,
always going to,
exactly.
and it's okay. I mean, in a
Yeah.
loving way, if people fall out, I'm not, I understand, I've gotten to the point in my life where I understand we're all in different places in our life. We're all evolving at a different pace. We all have a different inner intelligence. We all have a different ability to perceive things or tap into things that others might not. And it's okay. And I don't
Yeah.
judge and I don't like say, well, you don't get it. I never get like that. I'm always just, hey, I love you for exactly who you are. There's a lot of people that are friends of mine that we would probably not have the conversation that we're having today. And they're good people and I like them. But there's other people that can resonate with some of the subject matter that we're talking about and
Yeah.
understand that we are really, creating our own realities in many ways. So, I think that as life goes on, those people come to you, you learn a message, some stay with you forever, some are there for a time frame where they've served a purpose in some way to open you up or to help you bridge from one transition to the other. But when it's all said and done, when you're conscious and aware and you're living in the moment, you don't have to worry about, who's going to be my friend next week or next month right
Right.
now. You know what I mean? So I feel like,
Yes.
that all kind of it all becomes so much fun. It becomes
Yes.
like, it all becomes fun because then you're living this big play that we're in and that we're all just kind of, like Shakespeare, we're all kind of, actors on a stage, so to speak. The world's a stage.
Yeah.
Um, and so,
That fun is the answer.
yeah, and
Yeah. How do
so
we have more
I
fun?
find that to be just brilliant. So, Steve, Energy Steve, where where do people find you, sir?
I'm on all platforms. I think I'm more frequently on Instagram. That's like my daily one. YouTube channel, I upload a lot of podcasts. I have a podcast as well. Every platform. So YouTube, what are the big ones? Yeah, YouTube, Instagram, even LinkedIn. But I just love speaking. So I would love to hear people. I also have my new course. It's on a school platform. If you search just quantum courses, It's a place for people to build their business. That's where my group coaching is. That's going to be where we build our community as well. So I absolutely love that space because it's for these conversations for people that have their own business that they're building, how they're putting their soul into it, what are their blocks, what are their challenges, and sharing that together amplifies everybody. So that's something that's brand new that I'm super pumped that is has it's a paid group. There's a free group that has a taste of it, but there's a paid group that has founder member pricing right now. You can reach out to me anytime. I'm easy to find. Energy Steve on all platforms. I respond to everything. So just hit me up.
I love that. So, in addition to being a personal coach, you're also a business coach. Is that right?
Sort of. I've learned a lot of lessons from the energy behind running a business. So I really like it's kind of blending the systems with who you are as a person. For example, the way I coach and my clients, I might give them like more access to me speaking because I love speaking, but other coaches might be more structured and have more of like a game plan that's a day-to-day accountability test. So I love helping people find that structure for them, and it's really more full expression. So I think a good term for me is more of the expression coach, whether that's expressing your voice or expressing through business. I help you get really aligned with who you are and how those things express.
Love that, man. And your website is stevenceli.com,
Yes.
Celi,
Yep.
stevenceli.com. So they can go there. I'll
Yep.
have everything down below. Steven, man, it's been a blast hanging out with you. I
Yes.
wish I was back in Southern California. I would
Oh,
be over in Venice and we'd be hanging out and I'd be at one of your potlucks and
so
I'd probably
fun.
I'd probably meet like 30 or 40 like-minded people that we'd
It's
be
the
just hitting it
best.
off with and having a blast. So
Yes.
on behalf of myself and the podcast, brother, thank you for everything you're doing, making this world a better place, a brighter, happier
Uh,
future for everybody. We need more Steven Sellies in the world.
uh,
And stay with me here for just a sec.
sure.
We'll sign off now, but thanks again for being on today.
Thank you so much.